Console generations, a concept so familiar to gamers all around the world that it became the standard way of defining an entire industry's history. However, what once marked a revolutionary step into new adventures, entire new dimensions, and fancy new resolutions is becoming rather pointless. Let's take a look at the hot new thing everyone's talking about, the PlayStation 5 Pro. It is useless! We've had the PS5 and Xbox Series consoles for over 4 years now. That's halfway through the generation. And I don't need to tell you that this doesn't feel halfway. Hell, it feels like they're barely getting started. Any day now, guys. The games are gonna start rolling in. Any day now. Just a little longer. Yup. Any day. Games are taking longer to develop. Technology is not advancing as fast as it used to. I mean, just look at what bleeding edge gaming tech is now. AI technology to artificially raise frame rates because doing it through raw graphical improvements in the hardware level just isn't feasible enough. The hardware can't keep pace with all these fancy ray tracing and 4K textures. What is the point? What is the point of releasing a new generation in the first place? What is the point of coming out with a Pro console if after 4 years, all you have to show is slightly less blurry textures at a distance and a $700 price tag? Maybe we don't need an upgrade? Maybe we should start warming up to the idea that a 7-year cycle just won't cut it. I know that initially may sound frustrating. After all, some of the most fun parts of being a gamer come from these generational shifts. Just look at the amount of videos I've made on the topic. Me being excited is an understatement. However, do we really want all this hardware to go to waste? Tell me, if you are a PS5 owner, do you feel you've gotten half a generation's worth of experiences on that thing? Because when I look at discourse online, it doesn't seem like many people have. So maybe we don't need a new console in 3 years. Give the developers that extra time to really optimize for the platform. Give them the opportunity to release more games because the simple act of flipping the page into the next generation won't fix the structural problems that have brought us here. If longer development cycles and higher budgets are the cause for the lack of games, making a box 3 years from now that claims to run games in true HD or 4K 60 FPS every single game, that doesn't sound like it'll fix the problem. Sounds like you're starting to dig your own grave. And does it even matter? When the results of these upgrades become less and less prominent? When the $700 price tag has to justify itself by zooming in into a zoom in? To see a slightly less blurry text box already? What would that mean for next gen? We're just 3 years away from the usual deadline, and if this is what we got in for $700? I'm not optimistic the results would be much different. And the price? Oh, I'm not expecting that to be much different either. So I believe that it's time for us to warm up to the decade cycle and slow down the release of new hardware.
That would never work. Look at these machines, utterly outcompeted by the true power of the high-end PC. Running games at 4K 60 FPS. If consoles don't step up, people will just move to PC.
Well, while that is a fair worry on the surface, we need to remember what consoles are in the first place. Little subsidized boxes of entertainment, made not to earn money through their sales, but rather through the games sold on them. These companies shouldn't necessarily be worried about competing on the highest end. They should focus on the people of this planet, goddammit, and bring down those prices, and make those games, and all that other stuff too. Wouldn't it have just been great news if the PS5 Slim, instead of having dropped a year ago, was revealed right now? And with it, a decrease of $50 to $100 on the base PS5 followed? Wouldn't it have just made everyone's day to get a PS5 and Astro Bot for a lower price than a PS5 by itself was at launch? It's almost like I can smell the peace and prosperity in the air. And let me tell you, barely anybody was complaining about the PS5 not producing good enough graphics. If anything, Sony themselves proved in their own reveal of the PS5 Pro that over 75% of gamers are content enough with their graphics as they are to opt for a little lower resolution and get better performance. And obviously, I'm not saying that it's not good or impressive that you could get the best of both worlds with the PS5 Pro. What I'm saying is that is not $700 impressive. You know what would have been impressive instead? A PS5 at $400. or a sub to the channel if you're liking the video. Wink wink, nudge nudge. Look at the graph, please. Thank you. Make it easier for people to get into the PlayStation ecosystem, to sell them games on your storefront. And when lots more people have PS5s, those huge, massive, scrumptious, bonkers, and all other adjectives for massive, huge things games that you're releasing on your console will have the chance of making your money back. And the chances of you profiting from these ventures would be much higher. Maybe you'll actually make it worth it to spend this much time developing stuff. And you have to look no further than Nintendo to find these examples working out. Nintendo with the Nintendo Switch have made clear one thing. They wanted this hardware to last as long as possible, going as far as to declare their intentions to support the console for upwards of a decade. 10 years. Now, obviously, I don't think they intended to actually keep it as their primary main console for 10 years. I think they meant support in the same way that the 3DS kept getting games until 2019. As in, don't expect 2024 to be the last year with games slated to release on this thing. We're probably going to get some official releases until the year 2027. But they did all this with a console that shares a spec list with cheap Android tablets from the mid-2010s. Imagine what they could do with their next console. A 10-year generation suddenly doesn't sound so foreign anymore, does it? It might even outsell the Switch in the long run. And I know what you're thinking. No, it can't. The thing hasn't even been announced yet. There's no way Nintendo could capture lightning in a bottle once again and surpass the monumental sales of the Nintendo Switch. No way, I refuse to believe it. But they wouldn't have to capture the explosive success of the Switch. They just have to support it with high quality releases and make it a moderate success for long enough, giving it 3 extra years to perform, and suddenly it could get pretty close. But what is the takeaway from this video? Are console generations really doomed? Can they not serve as valuable ways of monitoring the progress of gaming anymore? Well, while I wouldn't count them out just yet, we really should start contemplating the option of slowing them down a little. Give these consoles more time to breathe. Hardware spec lists and fancy numbers were never the reason people got into gaming in the first place. It's the games. It's obvious when you point it out, but an increasingly large number of gaming companies seem to forget that they are in fact gaming companies, and they should focus most of their effort into making good, enjoyable games. I never liked the phrase graphics don't matter, because of course they do. What are you looking at on your screen there, buddy? The concept of a game just plays in your mind as you stare into the empty void? No, of course not. But alas, the phrase has stuck. And unfortunately, it becomes more and more true by the day. And it's not that graphics don't matter, it's that they shouldn't be the only thing that does. I'm tired of looking out into the gaming landscape and seeing so many of these games looking exactly the same. Ironically, in the pursuit for realism, you failed to see reality. What a shame. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I appreciate it a whole lot. Subscribe to see more content from me, as it helps out a small creator a ton, and you get more fun stuff to see. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye!